In this video, I will show you how to make some of the graphs that you need for your music project if you do not have Minitab. So first we'll need to make a histogram. When you make a histogram, you're first going to need to make sure that your data is usable. So if you have like 373 million or 273 million as your number, you'll need to convert that by adding the zeros. So if it's a million, you would add 6 zeros. If it's billions, you would add 9 zeros. And then, like, for example, down here, this one needs to be converted. So I get rid of the decimal, and so actually the 8 is in the place of one of the zeros, so I'm going to add 5 zeros. Okay. All right, so we need to put this data onto like a nice sheet where you can put everything together. And if I were dealing with the minutes and the seconds, I think that Google Sheets can deal with minutes, seconds like this, but when we go to Desmos, maybe not so much. So you may want to convert minutes, seconds to just seconds. So for example, 3 minutes is 180 seconds, and then you add 47, you get 227 seconds. All right, but for this one, I'm going to just deal with the YouTube views, which is here. So I'm going to copy all of the YouTube views over, and I'm going to make a new sheet where I can work. I'm going to give it a title. And going back, I'm going to get some more YouTube views. And then over here, you can see somebody did not collect data. I can't use it, obviously, so don't copy empty spaces. Don't copy NAs. Okay, and so now I want to make a histogram of YouTube views. So I'm going to go to Insert. Actually, let me highlight it. And then I'm going to go to Insert, Chart. And it gives me something. I'm going to go over here on the right. Instead of line chart, I want a histogram. It shows me histogram, but if it doesn't show you histogram, it's all the way at the bottom under Other. This is histogram. Okay, so my histogram looks pretty good. I'm going to change the axes because on the side this should say like frequency or count, and then on the bottom it should say YouTube views. So I'm going to go to Customize, Chart and Axes Titles, and the chart title's fine, but that's a drop-down menu. I'm going to take the vertical axis title and cut that and change it to frequency. And then the horizontal, that will be the YouTube views. Okay, and then this looks ready to copy into your project. All right, in order to do the graph that you're going to need, the probability distribution plot, for your solo slide, you're going to need the mean and the standard deviation. You also actually need that in order to analyze that histogram with SOX. So the next thing I would do is, you still have it highlighted, go over here to average. And actually it's not doing that right, so let me undo that. Okay, I'm going to highlight the numbers and try again with average. Okay, so once the average of those, I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to move that over. So that's my mean, and then I'm going to do the same thing for standard deviation. I'm going to copy all of this, or highlight it, and this time go over to functions, and I need the statistical menu and standard deviation. Press enter, And then I'm going to copy this over here. Okay, so I have my mean and my standard deviation. I'm going to need those numbers. Then you're going to go into Google Classroom, because when we did the minitab assignment, I gave you a graph, a Desmos graph. Okay, so project 5, minitab activity. And if you don't have minitab, you will need this graph. Okay, so here's where we're going to put our mean and our standard deviation, and obviously we're going to need to change the values for A and B. It tells you here A is the standard deviation, so going back, I need this number. And then it says that B is the mean, so I need that number too. Okay, so it looks like my mean is like 233,000 approximately. And so I'm going to need to see some really big numbers. So I need to change what I can see in the window. And I don't really need these at the moment. I don't need sliders. Okay, so looking at the window, I mean, you could just zoom out for a while, but it would take a while. On my x-axis, I need to see not only up to 233 million, but I need to see several. So I'm actually going to go to 1 billion. And then for my y-axis, I'm not sure because I'm not really seeing anything yet. All right, so I was having some trouble with that. I found two things. One was that I had some commas in my numbers up here, so it wasn't showing up at all. And then it was showing up as just a flat line. And so the problem was that I was seeing way too much in the y values. So going back here to graph settings, I did change my maximum to be 1 billion. And then for my y-axis, I really was seeing way too much, and that's what made it look flat. So I changed it, and you might just have to mess with this a little bit, to 10 to the negative 8, and then to 10, I'm sorry, negative 1 times 10 to the negative 8, and positive 1 times 10 to the negative 8. And it's not perfect, but I'm just going to slide it over a little bit so I can see better. And that looks pretty good. All right, and so then I want to shade it also. So to shade it, I need to find my x value, which was back here. And it's this one, 5,048,578. So I want to shade the numbers that are less than that. So I'm going to add a row. And x is less than this number without the commas. All right, and then I want to be able to do this, let's see, so that it's only under the curve. So I'm going to add the fancy brackets. And I want y. Let's see, I think I want the y's that are between 0 and the curve. So I'm going to go 0 less than y, and then less than, and I am going to copy this whole thing. Put that here. Okay, and then it should actually be shaded over here on the left as well, but that's just your Desmos program making a rounding error. So this may be as close as we get. And then you want to copy this picture in. I go to export image, and then I right click on the picture and I copy it in. You will need to add some labels, and you can add them in here. Okay, on your x-axis, you can label this YouTube views, and your y-axis would be frequency. No, this is not frequency. What did they label this in the minitab one? Let me check. Density. But you can also just create text boxes on your slide for the labels, and then you would copy it over.